Your Excellencies and members of Congress, in absentia at least, and friends. As I listen this evening to the remarkable tale of Dr. Martin Luther King's visit to India and the homage that's been paid to the ideas of Mahatma Gandhi, which were so much an influence upon Dr. King and remain a binding influence among all of us today, I couldn't help but reflect on the fact that just within the last 2 weeks, the American Jewish Committee had the privilege of receiving the Mahatma Gandhi Award for the Advancement of Religious Pluralism from the Hindu-American Foundation for our work in building Hindu-Jewish relations. And thank you. And this, of course, is but a piece of the outreach that we have done and that you have heard of today to the Indian-American community writ large, as well as building bridges among the United States, India, and Israel. And here I pay homage to my colleague and friend, Nissa Rubin, who has been our leader at the staff level, at least, on these efforts, and to Stan Bergman as well. I thank him for all of his important leadership as well. But in thinking about the influence of Gandhi on Dr. King, I also was reflecting on the fact that Dr. King was also a friend of Israel and a friend of the Jewish people. And in fact, in an important and well-remembered letter that he wrote in 1967, Dr. King said, "Zionism is nothing less than the dream and ideal of the Jewish people returning to live in their own land." And I think it's no accident that even as he resonated with Israel, with India, he also resonated with the struggle of the Jewish people for their self-determination in their homeland. And we also heard from another good and wonderful friend of the Jewish people and of Israel, as well as of India this evening. And that, of course, was Congressman John Lewis. So it's now, having shared those reflections with you, I want to turn to my task, and a pleasant one it is, to introduce to you Khanna, who is going to be the next speaker. There he is. Khanna was appointed by President Obama to serve as the Deputy Assistant Secretary for Domestic Operations of the United States and Foreign Commercial Service, for the International Trade Administration of the United States Department of Commerce. The U.S. and Foreign Commercial Service is the key export promotion agency of the federal government with a worldwide network of employees and a mission of assisting businesses in exporting their goods and services worldwide. He is responsible for overseeing the domestic operations of 109 U.S. export assistance centers operating in 48 states, and is responsible for a number of trade promotion programs, and will be planning and executing a number of critical trade missions for the department, as I just learned this evening, including a mission to India in the very near future. Prior to joining the Department of Commerce, Mr. Khanna was counsel at O'Melveny and Myers, where he was named a Northern California Super Lawyers Rising Star in 2009. And perhaps most importantly, from our perspective at least, Mr. Khanna visited Israel as part of a Project Interchange American-Indian Leadership mission in December of 2008. Please join us in address. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this honor. It's an incredible honor to be speaking on the same platform as Congressman Lewis. I want to recognize the Madam Ambassador, Ambassador Shankar. I appreciate my colleagues from Commerce, Steve Glickman and Laura Marquez, coming here. I want to thank Nissim Rubin for his extraordinary leadership, and Aziz Hanifa, who's been a good friend. Many people far more eloquent than I have given speeches, so I'll keep my remarks very brief. I have like many of you, personal stake in Dr. King's journey to India. As some of you know, my grandfather, Amarnath Vidyalankar, spent 4 years in jail as part of Gandhi's independence movement. And as many speakers have said, it was that movement that inspired the civil rights movement in this country. One of the things that hasn't been mentioned is until 1965, many people of Indian origin couldn't immigrate to this country. It was the civil rights movement that led to the Hatch Act that allowed my parents to immigrate in the 1960s, and that allowed many Indian Americans to come to this country. So to go from Dr. King's journey to India and my grandfather's struggle in the Indian independence movement to a moment where we have an African-American president appointing an Indian American to represent America's interests is a huge statement about the power of what these great men accomplished. So I'm honored to be here. I am very honored for this award, and thank you for inviting me.
I'd like to ask Richard Fulton and Stan, Dr. Rao, and Nissim to help present the award to Ro. It's jointly presented for leadership and service to community. I'd like to ask Gisella Gani, who serves on the Board of Directors for US-Asean, to introduce Dr. Deepak Jain.
Good evening, everybody. On behalf of US-Asean, I would like to welcome each and every one of you to this very special occasion. It's special in more ways than one. Today, we celebrate the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's journey to India. And we also celebrate three very diverse and distinct identities that have come together to honor this legend in the American civil rights movement. During his visit to India, Martin Luther King Jr. was really inspired by Mahatma Gandhi. And as you have heard before, in the words of Gandhi, be the change you want to see in this world. And so today we honor these two great leaders who really lived by these words, who led extraordinary lives, and who worked tirelessly, and whose actions inspired and energized people from different backgrounds and from different faiths to come together and create history. US-Asian also represents the diverse faces of the Asian American community, coming together to seek solutions, working together to gain leverage, and striving for the common good of our communities. I would now like to recognize our next awardee, Dr. Deepak Jain. Dr. Jain has been a professor of marketing at Northwestern University's Kellogg School of Management since 1987. From 2001 to 2009, Dr. Jain served as the Dean of the Kellogg School, bringing more than 20 years of experience in management and education to his position at the school's helm. Dr. Jain's areas of research include the marketing of high-tech products, market segmentation and competitive market structure analysis, cross-cultural issues in global production diffusion, new product diffusion, and forecasting models. He has more than 50 articles published in leading academic journals. In 2003, he was also appointed as Foreign Affairs Advisor to the Prime Minister of Thailand. He has served as a consultant for Microsoft, American Express, Sony, Nissan, Motorola, Philips, and Hyatt International. Please join me in honoring the gracious Dr. Deepak Jain.
Ambassador Valile Schlapo, other colleagues, it's always good to be at the last. Whatever you wanted to say, others have said it, and whatever you want to say, nobody is going to pay any interest anyway. But I want to tell you that hearing all the speeches and listening to all what was said, I feel very honored to be here, to be among the recipients today, because coming from a very small town in Tejpur, Assam, and growing up in a very small village, never had the opportunity to study in any top school in India like the IITs or the IIMs, studied in a village and then in a small college, and got the chance to be the dean of one of the best business schools. That speaks of this country. I just read this. No, in no other country. There was a book written recently called The Day of Empire. And the book says that countries that have achieved the highest order of excellence has achieved for one factor, and that factor is relative tolerance for diversity. And this is the country where we see three great groups today here, the Jewish American, the African American, and the Indian American, and I'm very honored to be here. But my background is slightly different than the people here. Being the dean of the business school, you always get criticized whenever there is something wrong with the economy, right? And there's a last year, what happened, people blame. And I just happened to be at a conference where people were talking about the value of an MBA. And they had invited three major speakers, one from Stanford Business School, who gave a speech saying, basically criticizing business schools, saying he wants to write a book called The End of Business Schools. The second speaker comes and he says that I have already written a book, and he said, Dean Jain, your degree, MBA, is contaminated. He says what you should offer to your student is MBS, Master of BS, and I don't know what he meant by BS, but what he said was that what you teach in business schools is a set of business skills. You neither teach administration nor you teach leadership. And the third speaker gave a talk called How Business Schools Have Lost Their Way. I was supposed to be a discussant, and there is a consortium of 7 business schools in the US, Harvard, Stanford, MIT, Kellogg, Chicago, Columbia, and Wharton. All the 7 deans were invited. My other 6 deans were smart not to attend this conference, so I was left by my own. So I was just coming to the podium to make my remarks. So one of the speakers came back, and he said that I want to make one more point. So he put a transparency saying, comparing US business schools to US airlines. Now, that's not a good comparison, right? And he said that just like airplanes are running full, but airlines are losing money, he said that MBA programs are full, but MBA schools are losing reputation. And he said that I cannot think why anyone with an IQ greater than 0 would think of becoming the dean of a business school, right? Not that anyone would become a dean, but that's what he said. So I came to the podium and I told him, I said, Mr. X, not only I decided to be the dean of business school of Chicago, of Kellogg School, but I also accepted to be a board member of United Airlines. So I need to get my head examined, right? So I told him that today you have told me that there is some similarity between the two industries, but I think this evening, I want to say that no matter what people say about business schools, business education is going to be the cornerstone. If we have to promote entrepreneurs, small businesses in this country, no matter what discipline you come from, people need to have the basic foundations of business education and management. And that's what I did for the 8 years. But generally when people teach, there is a very common feeling among participants, which is that we are all trained to look for differences. In fact, my proposition is we need to look for similarities. We can say the Jewish religion is different than the Jainism, the Hindus are different, the Sikhs are different, and others. We are trained to look for differences. In fact, we should be looking for similarities. That is, to me, the essence of peace, prosperity, and harmony. And I really believe that that is what we are on the journey. And my final point is, as a kid, when you go to school, my father taught me that you go to school to learn the 3 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic. This evening, for people at this level, I think that we also have to follow the 3 R's. First is reflection. We need to reflect back and see what we have achieved. Second is renewal. We need to renew our thoughts. And third is responsibility. I think this evening is a special indication for what we heard about Dr. King, Mahatma Gandhi, Congressman Lewis, and all others. We have a responsibility, and we need to work together to make this world a better and a safer place to live. Gandhi said about 7 sins. He said X without Y and so on. When I first read that article and looked at the 7 sins, I added the 8th sin to it, and that was success without significance. And that's how I defined the mission of the Kellogg School as the dean. Our mission is from success to significance. We want to produce leaders who are going to make an impact of lasting significance. And I hope you all will join me in taking this responsibility that we need to work together to bring peace, prosperity, and make this world a better and a safer place to live. I want to thank all of you for thinking of me. It has been a great honor. Thank you.
I'd like to ask Ambassador Schlappo, Gisella, Gani, Stan Lee, and Dr. Rao to help present the award to Dr. Jain. It says jointly presented this award for leadership and service to community. Now I'd like to ask Dr. Shankar Rao, the past president of API, to make some closing remarks.
Thanks, Dino. This is the first time that we have these 3 organizations come together today on the historic day, which is the 50th anniversary of Dr. King's visit to India and then 100th anniversary of the NAACP. Now, all the minorities, wherever they are, they're making significant contributions to the world. Just this morning, I was just driving to the airport and I heard the Nobel Prize for chemistry awarded to 3 scientists. Scientists from Israel, from Weizmann Institute, Indian scientists from UK, and an American scientist from US. All 3 shared the Nobel Prize in chemistry about the ribosomes, which is very important because being a physician, there is tremendous antibiotic, losing susceptibility. So this will probably change something that will come to happen. I would like also to take this moment to talk about AJC and the role they play in making people understand what's going on around the world and also Israel. I was part of the trip that I took to Israel thanks to AJC. We had a phenomenal time coming to know the country, the culture, the scientific achievement at Weizmann Institute, which I visited, their political dilemma. This is an amazing trip I had. I also went to the Weizmann, which is the memorial that was just moved me like anything. At this point, I would like to say one thing. We all know Mahatma Gandhi's influence on Dr. King, but I also would like to tell at this time, Ben-Gurion was the first prime minister of Israel. And I visited his home, I visited his bedroom. There is only one picture in his bedroom. It is not a family picture, not his wife, not his children, not his parents. Mahatma Gandhi's only picture on the wall. So he had tremendous influence on Ben-Gurion also. I would like this time to thank all the dignitaries that are here today. I would like to thank Dr. Stanley Bergman and Marion for their continued support and contribution, AJC for their visionary work that they're doing and putting this thing together. And I'd like to also thank Nissan for doing a tremendous job. He was our leader for the trip of Pentagon. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming. Good night. Shalom and namaste.